What's going on, y'all, and welcome on in. In this video, I want to cover the 5-star Covenant Selector that we'll be getting very soon. So let me pull up the website in case you've been living under a rock and haven't seen what's happening, boys. The Ezran Foundation Day check-in event is coming very soon, September 1st. So by the time you watch this video, it'll probably be very close, if not already September 1st. And then we just got to wait 15 days. Make sure you log in and you get the 5-star Covenant Hero Selector. Now, we did get this last year, and I believe it was also under the Ezran Foundation Day event, same thing. So I have some inside info on how this kind of works. I want to run through you guys what to expect from this 5-star Covenant Hero Selector, as well as go through maybe a tier list and give my best recommendations, because things have definitely shaken up and become a lot different in terms of meta, best picks, most bang for your buck, and I can guide y'all on both free-to-plays and maybe like imprints for veterans. So we'll break it down, all the stuff to expect, best picks. Let's get to it. All right, y'all, before I get into the tier list that I made just for you guys to give you the best bang for your buck pick from the Ezran Day 5-star Covenant Selector, I want to make two quick just points. Number one, no matter what you pick, let's say you watch this video too late, you watch this a month down the line, you pick something else and you regret it, don't even worry, guys. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the selective summons and why I'm going to leave some units out, or I'll put them in a separate like honorable mention section on the tier list. That's because there's different selective summons. So long story short, don't feel bad whatever you pick, guys, from your selective summons, or if you just want to pick something fun or pick something regrettable, guys, the game is in for regular RGB. This doesn't count Moonlight 5s or collab limited units, because those are a little bit more exclusive. For these just regular units that come up all the time on the banners, don't feel too bad. The game gives you enough resources, enough units, enough reruns that you're kind of just in a great spot. You can't make any super major mistakes in terms of these picks. The game is forgiving enough now where you'll be fine no matter what you pick. That's the first thing. Now, second, I do want you guys to get the best pick for your account, so I'm going to break down some info for you and just showing you the Season 2 Selector. The reason I haven't picked it yet, guys, if you're wondering, I don't need anything on the list. I'm just waiting until I really decide what I want in terms of an imprint, maybe one of these artifacts that I haven't pulled yet. I'm just holding it, and I like to refer to it for you guys watching. But I am going to talk about the Season 1 Selective as well as the Season 2 here. Make sure, if you don't catch it in the tier list that I'm going to show you here in a second, I'm going to leave off units here because you have access to them. So if you can, do your Season 1 Selective, do your Season 2 Selective, which is unlocked after Episode 3. That way you can kind of, this isn't a for sure pick, you have a high likelihood, but you can see what you get. Right, because there's amazing picks in here between Shua, Lencia, Ida, awesome for Clay. There's a ton of great picks in here. See what you get first in the Season 2 Selective, or maybe you already picked, and that'll help you narrow it down. But there's a reason I'm going to kind of format the tier list in a way that we want to not pick units from the Season 2 Selective, as we have alternate methods of getting them, and we'd rather just pick something unique that can't be gotten outside of just, you know, a recurring banner pull, okay? So just two quick points. Let's get to the tier list. All right, boys, let's pull up this tier list I made just for you guys, a Car 6 exclusive for the Amazon channel. Now, luckily, this isn't that much, right, guys? The meta has changed drastically, and a lot of units have been taken off. For example, I would have suggested, if this was a year ago tier list, Fire Lilius as, let me give you my criteria before we get into it. I want to give you guys, like I mentioned, units that aren't available from other means in the game, like the Selective Summon Season 1 and Season 2. We're going to talk about these here in a second. And I want units that will provide you guys value both in the early game, late game, as well as both PvE and PvP. Now, like I mentioned, Smilegate has made a lot of changes, buffs, so some units have fallen off with the introduction of super powerful units. Not naming names, but yeah, the meta has drastically shifted, so the list is much less, you know, there's not a lot of units on here that I can really suggest. So that's a good thing overall, though, because like I mentioned, the game is very forgiving. You don't absolutely need to pick one of these, but I do think these are the top picks. So let's get into it. All right, let's start with the top row, guys. These are my top 3 picks overall, and let's just go from left to right. Number 1 is Rowana. Now, Rowana's interesting because units like I have Destina here, maybe even like Momo, Angelica, they will provide more direct healing. Of course, Tamarin as well when she pops off, but other units will provide more direct healing. Rowana only has her 1 skill 3 to provide healing, and then she has to wait on cooldown, or she has to fight dual attackers, extra attackers, counter attackers. Now, when she does fight those extra attacks, though, guys, she is god tier, and that's why I put her here, because she's usable in PvE. Let's start with PvE. Hell Raids, Abyss, sometimes those Advent Trials, Holo Trials. She, if you fight anything with dual attacks, she is the queen of sustain. Now, on top of that, for PvP, guys, there's a lot of let's say you're fighting Violets, let's say you're fighting anything with counter, Rowanna's, Archdemon Mercedes, as long as you have the Stella Harpa, Fire Mercedes, you can trap opponents, Tisa Bologna. If you trap them with this unit, Solitaria, sorry, I just keep thinking of more, then she will provide you she's either a must ban, or if you give them something else, you have a must win under your belt with this unit alone. Just keep in mind, guys, you will need Stella Harpa for some matches like the what do you call it, the Archdemon Mercedes fight, because you can get sealed and you want that cleanse. So I do think that's her best in slot artifact, but that's for another video. So moving on from Rowanna, guys, we got Violet. Now Violet is one I kind of underestimated, so I want to make a quick segue here, boys. My Twitch chat actually is the one that, you know, kind of showed me the light in terms of putting him up here for newer players. So that those of you watching, if there's a unit I leave out, or if there's something you want me to move around, in your experience, right, guys, this is all opinion based. No tier list is perfect. So me as a 4-year veteran, I might be forgetting some things from the new player journey, or my experience from day one is much different than y'all starting out now. So if you recently went through it and there's a unit you want to share with the rest of the YouTube audience, please feel free, speak your mind, tell me some things I'm missing out. But for example, the Violet I underrated, because for endgame players, Violet has fallen off quite a bit. 6 months ago, he was a god after his buffs. He was so oppressive. Nowadays, he's much more manageable. You don't see him too much in standard play. At the higher levels, you will still see him in anti-cleave, and of course if your opponent messed up and picked too many ice units. But overall, for endgame RTA, his play rate has dropped pretty significantly. That's not to say he's still not a great unit. Like I said, in anti-cleave, if your opponent has a lot of ice, he is still a solid pick. And for newer players, he's just one of those safe picks. Auto tower, even Hell Raid, if you're not fighting like fire bosses and anything like that, any difficult content, RTA, if you get trapped, he's just kind of that unit that you can slap down. And if your RNG is good, he can kind of still win you the match. He can kind of clutch things out for you because of his self-healing kit. The only thing is, guys, you do want lifesteal on him, but with the Hell Raid gear, there's multiple levels of it. You can start just picking those slowly. And I think also there's some lifesteal gear from the Conquest shop, so you don't have to farm necessarily Banshee if you're a Wyvern player. He does have easy access to some free-to-play options, so I do think he is a great new player option, just a safe pick overall. Last but not least, guys, I don't have to talk too much on Tama for our top picks. Tama is still the queen of PvE. She has no PvP usage like these two in the front, but the fact that she is so strong in PvE, do I need to talk about it, guys? She has a cleanse, she has a strip, she brings extra damage through the use of dual attacks, tons of healing, full cleanse. The list goes on, boys. She is just so good. And if you have Iceria too, you can pull off some crazy combos for PvP. But overall, she's mainly the PvE queen. She is still to this day will just make your life so much easier for difficult PvE content. And of course, she will remain in one of our top picks. All right, so those are the top 3 options, guys. Anything else, boys, beyond that? I think this is just it for the top tier. Let me know if you think someone else belongs in that top spot. All right, guys, next up, the reason Hua Young here. Some of y'all might be thinking, blasphemy, why would a unit this powerful be only in B tier? It's mostly just because I don't think she does a lot for PvE, and if you did want to pick her as a newer player for PvP, for RTA, she's going to be banned out like 90% of the matches because she's that strong. Otherwise, she would probably be up in the top list because she's that good. She still can be used in all PvE. Even I use her still in PvE because I'm lazy, and she's just amazing. But other units that have crit damage will outscale her for a lot of the PvE content because you can double dip on artifacts. Just crit damage overall will scale in the long run, but for anything PvP related, guys, she is the queen. She counters so many units, she one-shots so many units, she's tanky, and she's pretty easy to gear. All things considered, you do need Uberi's Tooth for her to really pop off, and you do need a lot of attack gear, which maybe you haven't rolled too much of yet. But if you can fit those criteria, she is definitely a strong pick. And if you're a PvPer, I would suggest highly considering getting her, okay? Next up on the list is a little bit more well-rounded, guys. We have Destina. Now, Destina got some buffs recently. Not super recently, but, you know, more recently than later. She is now very strong for 2 things. Number 1, for PvP, guys, she will make your cleansing. She's probably the premier cleanser that you can get early on if you want to pick her from this 5-star Covenant Selector. She gets a insane ER buff at the start of the match, and on top of that, she got buffs to both her skill 2, I believe, and, you know, some other random buffs that just provide more utility. She has CR push. She just has great healing. And here's a really great part for both PvE and PvP. She has a revive that, unlike before it was gated behind Moonlight 5s like Ruel and Maid Chloe, unlike Rowana, who needs to have that revive buff active before your unit dies, Destina can just revive units anytime she casts the skill 3. No need to have the buff on prior to the unit's death. So overall, I think she's very good for both PvE and PvP. Might even consider putting her up in A rank, but I do think I like her here. She's a great, solid pick overall. Last but not least, guys, is Crow, and I kind of dropped him down a bit. I don't think Crow, I might even put him in honorable mention. This is just kind of a pick if you like him and if you really value areas like Guild Wars, because for PvP, let's start with PvP on him. In terms of the meta, units like Roz, Pillis, Fallen Cecilia, of course, I think have more relevance right now. And then we're even going to be getting SC Arrowell soon. But Crow is still a monster in high levels of RTA, considering if you can pick him into like Lionheart Hermias, a lot of AoE where he can get some great value out of his skill 3. Now for Guild Wars and Arena, where we can bait out Earth units and then just kill a unit with a trade with his skill 3, I think that's why I consider him a great pick overall. And he does have some slight PvE usages, like you can just throw him in your Wyvern team if you don't want to use Momo or Angelica in the beginning. Overall, though, not really a PvE unit. Mainly, if you really value Guild Wars and Arena, and then some early RTA, I think he can be very, very good, and still very good in the late game as well. I use him all the time in Guild Wars, but your mileage may vary. Maybe you don't need him as much as some of these other picks. All right, guys, so that's kind of wraps up the top picks overall that don't have summons elsewhere in the game. Let's talk about these honorable mentions here real quick, because they are available in the Season 2 Selective and Season 1 Selective, right? These 4 and then these 3. There's other units like I mentioned at the start. Ida, Flan, for example, can be very good, but I'm going to just talk about a few here. And also, guys, I'll talk about imprints or maybe what you should pick as a veteran and not a new player. So let's go through this real fast as we're getting quite a bit into this video. Alencia and Shu, guys, I'll group them up together. They were recently buffed. These are the Bruiser duo. They're so oppressive. They're both very, very strong in the current meta. If you're a standard Bruiser player and you already did your Season 2 Selective, you didn't pick these two up, maybe consider them. Actually, let's go ahead and talk about veterans as well. Veterans, if you didn't pick up, or if you're just looking at an imprint, I think Shu is a great option if you're a standard or Bruiser player, because she has that coveted crit chance imprint, so consider her. Politis up next, guys, is good for both cleave and anti-cleave. She's just good in almost all areas of PvP, no matter what your style is. I even use her in a tanky, high res, high effectiveness with crown kind of what do you call it, control style. She has so many ways to play. She's a must-have for certain areas of the game, and once you get higher up, you want to get her. So Season 2, if you didn't pick her yet, consider Politis. Senya, just like Alencia and Shu got buffed, she's a little bit different in terms of bruising, though. You kind of want to be a super tankier player, but she does have like anti-cleave potential, anti-riot, anti-dodge. Just if you have her artifact, I do think she needs her artifact for some matchups, so in case you don't have that, her value will go a little bit down. But after the WC, right, she had a great showing there. I think Senya is an awesome pick as well. Now, Green Vildred, Icerian, and Ravi are your Season 1 units, right, for Season 1 Selective. Vildred for veterans. He has that coveted speed imprint, one of the best in the game. If you're just a newer player and like him and you didn't get him from Season 1 Selective summons, he's great for a early dog walker, early farmer. He's one of the best picks for a non-one-shot as a Manak Hunt, so if you want to do A13. And like I mentioned, the speed imprint is just great overall for cleave and aggressive players. Now, Iceria is an interesting one because she still has that very unique skill reset. Only other one unit in the game, I think Rima has it, but Iceria has a much better version that will full reset no matter how long the cooldown is, even with long resets like Tama. These two work really well together. She has defense break. She's good in a lot of PvE areas, not really too much in PvP, but she has so much PvE utility and a unique factor with the skill reset. I think she's a strong contender, but try to get her from your Season 1 Selective first if you like her a lot. Ravi is kind of just one I want to mention because overall, you can't mess up your pick too much. And Ravi, if you just like her, if you want to fire Bruiser, she's good in Hell Raid. A lot of early PvE content can be smoothed out by just throwing in a Ravi at the front line. She does damage. She can do a little bit of AoE with her skill 3. She doesn't die. Kind of just a note of a pick where, you know, you just need something that you like, and you can't go wrong with her overall. A little bit of endgame PvP potential, too, if your opponent picks too many Earth units. All right, guys, let's wrap it up there as we went too long. Overall, don't sweat the picks too much. If you really, really have no idea, kind of just consider my early picks. Veterans, just go for an imprint, right? Speed imprint, crit chance imprint, or let's say, for example, you're trying to get higher up in RTA, you're lacking some anti-cleave options with like Politis, go ahead and go for that. You know, try to shore up pick a hero first if you're missing one, and then if you have all the heroes, go for stronger imprints that you definitely use that are in the meta, like Shu, crit chance, Vildred speed, okay? All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this helps out a little bit. Have fun. Just pick what you want, and let's enjoy Epic 7. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.